These windows have seen better days, and this window is past its use by date. A bad case of rot, and the bottom rail is dislodged. So let's pull it out and try and build a new sash with my very limited woodwork skills. First we'll need a few dimensions. I'm going to make the new sash a couple of mils smaller. This will give us a little bit of wiggle room as the sash moves over time. I'll have to allow for these side hinges. Looks like I need to borrow a router. The inside of the hinge sits flush against the sash, but the outside of the hinge protrudes a couple of millimeters. You can see here on this corner, the rot has really set in. Since I'm not going to reuse any of the wood in this old sash, I can pull it apart to drop the glass out. The side that was rotted the most comes out really easy. The other side needs a little bit of coaching. Next is to remove the hinges off both sides. I'm using 65 by 12mm Tasmanian oak dressed all around. I'll be laminating the sash out of 3 separate pieces of timber. I'll remove all the labels and get rid of the sticky goo. To ensure all pieces are identical lengths, I'm going to clamp the timber together and cut them all simultaneously. The timbers will be of different lengths, and I'll assemble them so they make a mortise and tenon joint. To see if my cut sizes are right, I'm going to dry assemble the sash and just measure it. For the gluing of the 3 timbers, I'll need a flat surface to clamp them to. Check both sides of the timber and make sure there's no rock. There are portions of this desk that are not so flat. Before getting any glue out, I'll make a test clamp first and mark out the positions roughly on the bench with tape. I'm using the Titebond Ultimate Wood Glue. Now for the gluing. We want to apply an even coat of glue over all the timbers. I'm using a roller to achieve this. Now just assemble the timbers together and using some pieces of offcut, position the timbers in the correct position. This can be a little bit tricky as the glue provides a slippery surface and the timbers aquaplane together. Once the timbers are in the right position, we can start the clamping process. We want to put as many clamps on as we can and spread the load evenly across all the timbers. Wipe up any glue overruns with a wet towel. Now to assemble the sash again and do a dry check. We've got a problem with this joint, it doesn't sit flush. If we have a look on the inside of the joint, we can see we've got an overrun of glue. We just need to clean this out with a small chisel. Now we see the joint fits better together. Now to glue all 4 corners of the sash. I'm using a couple of tie-down straps to hold the sash together and then G-clamp each corner. To clean up these joints, I'm going to plane down the high spots. If I mark all the timbers with pencil, I can use it as a guide while planing. Here I'm using my grandfather's plane to clean up this joint. Now the timbers are more even. I've borrowed a router to do the side recesses. I plunge down in small increments so as not to put too much load on the cutter. The end job looks good. And the side hinges fit neatly inside. For the glass rebate, I used red oak beading edging. I cut the profile in half and put the glass against the sawn edge. I used spacer blocks to ensure that the glass rebate would be the same all the way around the sash. Any variation in the wood width would protrude past the sash and I could clean that up later. Once again, give both timbers an ample coat of the wood glue. A couple of small nails just to keep the timber in position. Wipe up any excess glue, then start the clamping process. You might notice under the sash I'm using baking paper. This works a lot better for gluing than paper. For when you use the wet rag to clean up the glue spill, the baking paper doesn't get wet and disintegrate. Once the clamps are all on and the glue's all cleaned up, let it sit for 24 hours before doing the next portion. You can plane off any of the protruding timber. After giving the sash a good sand, it's time to start painting. I ended up giving this sash 3 coats of undercoat and 3 coats of top coat. Definitely don't want the rot to set in again. Here Brian, a professional glazier, shows me how to trim down the old glass. Looks so easy. A small bead of silicone is put around the edge of the glass to hold it in position, and this gun installs glazier points, which holds the glass in place.
So the best bit is you've got to get the lumps out. This is just enough to do this window.
Brian shows me 2 different ways to put the putty on.
Each way for someone like you is like this.
Using a putty knife to apply the bevel. Now we have the finished sash with the glass inserted, we're now ready to fit. First I put a couple of screws in the hinge just to check the mount. Everything looks good except the inside edge. It rubs on the window frame. Quick radius on this edge and everything's fine. I've used all the old hardware, including the handle that locks the window. Put the curtains back on the window, give it a little while and no one will know that we've been here.